Hey everyone, welcome to this explainer. Today we're diving straight into your monthly business news for August 2026. And wow, there is a lot to unpack. We are looking at a massive flurry of regulatory updates, new government policies, and some really crucial deadlines that are going to directly impact how you run your day-to-day operations. My goal today is to take all of these complex updates, clear away the noise, and make them crystal clear for you. We've got a lot of ground to cover, so let's jump right in. Here is our agenda for today. We're going to cover the new government's priorities, some fast-approaching tax rules and deadlines, free cybersecurity for SMEs, and finally, a rather eye-opening report on HMRC's poor performance. All right, kicking things off with Section 1, the new government's priorities, focusing on Andy Burnham's first days in office. So, Prime Minister Andy Burnham has definitely hit the ground running, and it's really been a balancing act. On one hand, we're seeing these swift cost-saving measures aimed at the public, like the VAT reduction on household energy bills and a £2 capped bus fare rolling out in England by January 2027. Then, for you business owners, specifically in hospitality, there's a proposed 20% business rates cut for pubs, clubs, and music venues. And alongside all this spending, John Healey has been appointed as Chancellor. He's widely seen as a very experienced, fiscally responsible figure. In fact, right after his appointment, defense companies like BAE Systems and Babcock actually saw a nice little bump in their share prices. Now, zooming in on that 20% number. For the hospitality sector, this proposed business rate reduction slated for 2027 to 2028 is a huge deal, especially since it comes on top of a 15% relief from the previous year. But, making a sweeping 20% cut across the board begs a really massive economic question, right? How exactly are they going to fund all these promises Well, the government's plan is to balance these cuts neutrally. Basically, they have to pull the money from somewhere else. They're looking at diverting hundreds of millions of pounds that were previously meant for international climate finance projects. And closer to home, they're planning to review and maybe even strip away tax reliefs for businesses that aren't deemed to make a positive community contribution. They specifically called out vape shops as an example. Plus, they are heavily targeting non-compliant online sellers who are dodging their tax obligations. Moving right along to Section 2, approaching tax rules and deadlines, and how you can navigate these new mandates. While the government is setting this macro agenda, it's the specific daily tax rules that you actually have to deal with. Just look at how we pay VAT and PAE right now versus what's being proposed. Currently, you've got various electronic payment options available, but the government is looking into a mandatory direct debit for most VAT-registered businesses and employers. Now, HMRC argues this is going to automate things, cut down on errors, and stop those pesky missed deadlines. But let's be real, it definitely raises some serious cash flow management concerns for businesses. And time is ticking on this one. The consultation, which includes talks about penalties for noncompliance, closes super soon, on August 16th, 2026. Another massive priority for HMRC right now is cracking down on something called electronic sales suppression, or ESS. If you haven't heard of it, this is when people manipulate digital sales records in their point-of-sale systems just to hide income and evade tax. HMRC believes this practice has spread like wildfire, especially in small retail, takeaways, and hospitality businesses, and they are moving aggressively to shut it down. So to combat this, they're proposing some pretty strict uniform software standards that could fundamentally change how you record your sales. We're talking mandated, highly compliant ePost or mPost software that's basically tamper-proof. They even want specific info, like QR codes printed directly on receipts. The idea is that an HMRC officer could literally walk in unannounced, scan a receipt, and instantly verify the integrity of your entire system. If you're in one of these targeted sectors, you really need to pay attention here because this consultation closes on August 18th. And speaking of crucial dates, mark August 7th on your calendar. This is the fast-approaching deadline for sole traders and landlords who need to send their very first Making Tax Digital Quarterly Update. You've got to submit your income and expenses for the first 3 months of the tax year. Just remember, these quarterly updates absolutely do not replace your end-of-year tax return, but getting this first one successfully filed, that's a massive compliance milestone for sure. Let's pivot to Section 3, free cybersecurity for SMEs and protecting your operations. Let's take a quick breather from all those tax mandates and look at a really positive, actionable resource. Because as our digital compliance grows, unfortunately, so do digital operational threats. I mean, as if managing your cash flow wasn't stressful enough. Check out these 2025 stats from the National Cybersecurity Center. 65% of medium organizations and 46% of small organizations reported a cyber breach. That is huge. Small and medium enterprises are increasingly in the crosshairs, but a lot of folks just feel like cybersecurity is way too complicated or expensive to even touch. Well, to help fix exactly that problem, the NCSC has set up a network of cyber advisors. Right now, they are offering a completely free, no strings attached, 30-minute consultation specifically designed for SMEs. They'll walk you through implementing the 5 steps of Cyber Essentials, which is the government's baseline for security. It is just an absolutely fantastic opportunity to get real-world practical advice without the hefty price tag. Finally, we arrive at Section 4. HMRC's Poor Performance Report, focusing on the harsh reality of compliance. Okay, getting back to the harsh realities of daily business compliance. A brand new annual report from the Chartered Stakeholder Group has really shone a light on some severe service shortfalls over at HMRC. Now, context is key here. The government has committed around £7 billion to modernize HMRC into this world-class digital-first machine. But just look at these scores out of 10. Getting things right scored a 3.97. Making things easy is sitting at 3.25. And being responsive, a dismal 2.80. Tax agents are complaining about persistent postal delays, helplines where the staff lack expertise, and literally no way to track cases effectively. So there is a massive disconnect between that £7 billion investment and the actual user experience. And what's really striking is the overwhelmingly negative feedback directly targeted at making tax digital. Despite HMRC trying to frame it positively, the survey respondents didn't hold back. They described MTD as poorly designed and generally not fit for purpose. The general vibe among business owners is that the program offers very little practical value, and instead just brings extra costs, more admin, and this really heavy quarterly reporting burden. All of this builds up to some serious frustration over accountability. Nearly 82% of respondents felt that HMRC is simply not being held accountable for meeting its own charter requirements. There's this widespread feeling that digitalization is being blindly prioritized over basic fairness and support. And, here is the real kicker. While you, the taxpayer, face strict deadlines and harsh penalties for being late, there are absolutely zero penalties imposed on HMRC when they fail to meet their own service standards. Talk about a double standard. Because these challenges are all so deeply connected, from trying to master those new POS software standards to dealing with a severely backlogged HMRC, you really don't have to navigate it all on your own. If you need help filing that MTD quarterly update, wrapping your head around the new ESS proposals, or just fighting an HMRC dispute, we strongly encourage you to reach out for a consultation. We're here to help you translate all these complex mandates into manageable actions, so you can just get back to doing what you do best, running your business. As we wrap up this explainer, I want to leave you with one critical question to ponder. We've just seen the new government's highly aggressive legislative pace, pushing hard for things like mandatory direct debits and rigid POS software. But with HMRC scoring a shocking 2.8 out of 10 for responsiveness, can the government actually fix HMRC's massive digital shortfalls before everyday businesses end up paying the price in delays and administrative nightmares? It's a massive balancing act, and we're going to be watching it super closely in the months ahead. Thanks so much for learning with me today, and I'll see you in the next explainer.